It's going.
Great. Thank you for starting the recording. Hi, everybody. So good to be with you all here for now our third training session so far for our leadership training week. In case we haven't met, I'm Eric Way. I'm the Director of Community Affairs here for the Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine. Here joined with us, Porfirio Figueroa, who's our Deputy Director, um, runs our leadership training series. Would not be able to do this without him. So thank you. And Dawn Billings, who is our CAU administrator, making sure that we are literally on here on Zoom and that everyone gets their invite and gets to where they need to be. So thank you, Dawn. And I will leave introduction of our presenter to Porfirio in just a moment. I just really quickly wanted to thank all of you for being on here. We try to do these both in the evening, but also kind of a virtual brown bag lunch kind of thing so that folks are able to get some training and then continue on with the rest of their day. This one is incredibly special to me and important, and I really want to thank Jesus Perez for doing this with our office. Jesus he'll be introduced shortly, but is the district manager of Community Board 6 and is really going to be talking a lot about how what their process is for archiving resolutions and other important documents. Um, Really top of mind for our office over the last couple of years have been term limits and how this is going to be affecting our community boards and how we can continue to preserve and pass on the institutional knowledge of the board once those term limits start to kick in. So this is incredibly important to us. We had a training, which you can check out our previous trainings on our YouTube page where we talked about how we train new leaders, how we can build up new management or other processes for our boards. So we want to continue this, but for right now, I'm just going to leave it to Porfirio to introduce Jesus to talk about this. And thank you again all for being here.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you for your support. My name is Porfirio Figueroa. I'm the Deputy Director of Community Affairs here at the Manhattan Borough President's Office. And as Eric stated, this is most certainly one of our, what we consider one of our most special series and sessions here today, because it's fantastic that we get a chance to spend a lot of time and with Jesus. Jesus Perez has served as district manager of Manhattan Community Board 6 since 2016. Prior to that, he was a community liaison for Community Boards 6, 8, and 11 in the office of the Manhattan Board President, then Gail Brewer, and earlier a member of Manhattan Community Board 11. Having worked with community boards from nearly every perspective, Jesus brings a deep understanding of their operations and challenges. At CB6, he has focused on improving the board's online presence and using technology to support transparency, efficiency, and the preservation of institutional knowledge with the use of Airtable. We're so thrilled to have you here, Jesus, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Oh, one last thing, if I may, we have disabled the chat. Jesus will enable it when or if he has a question that he wants anyone to engage in. However, you can still put things in the Q&A and we will save those for the end. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Porfirio. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Don. And thank you to the Borough President's Office for organizing this training. Good afternoon, everyone out there. Welcome to Archiving on Airtable and Passing on Institutional Knowledge. Today, we're going to talk about the exciting world of record keeping, and we're particularly going to be talking about it as it pertains to Airtable, which is what Community Board 6 and a couple of other boards out in Manhattan use, and how it helps us preserve and pass on institutional knowledge. I know institutional knowledge has been on the minds of a lot of boards lately, especially as we are coming up in a little bit over a year and a half on the first members who will be subject to term limits being leaving our boards. So, since they were enacted in 2019, it seemed like they were, forever away, but now they're coming up upon us. So the people who are subject to those have already started their last term. So hopefully This presentation can inspire you and get a lot of questions about how your board can meet the challenge of transitioning all these members out and preserving the work and the knowledge that they have brought to your board. So institutional knowledge, oh, let me get my presentation up. All right. Institutional knowledge is easy to lose. You know, there can be staff turnover, there can be knowledge that is with the members, but it's in places that are not always easy to access, like in their own heads or in emails, or buried under many, many files in a file cabinet. And good record keeping takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and it can be difficult for community boards that are understaffed and inundated with work. It's so easy for projects to fall by the wayside, or for once you've done one, move on to the next one, and the details, the teachable moments of each and every project can be lost because you're just trying to keep your head above water. You're not thinking about what you need to preserve to help future members and future staff members. So institutional knowledge is very easy to lose. So you really do have to work really hard to keep it. It's an effort. It's an ongoing effort. It's something that needs to be done day in and day out. And it needs to become part of the workflow of community boards. And that's going to become truer and truer as members start cycling out. And, they only get, the new ones coming in only get a brief 8 years to make their mark. The way we here at CB6 help with this is we use Airtable. Airtable is something that's been around for a good decade or so. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, it is a cloud-based platform that's essentially a cross between a spreadsheet and a database. And those two things working together allow CB6, and I'm sure will allow your boards, to search, organize, analyze, and curate your data, in this case, resolutions, to help unlock the insight that can be useful to the board and to anyone else who engages with your board. I am going to now show you the Airtable that we use at CB6. For those of you who are eager to look at it on your own, if you go to the CB6 website, here is the CB6 website. You can find that at cbsix.org. And if you go to resolutions, just click it. There will be a little pop-up that comes up, and then just click that. And then you will be taken to our database and tracker, the CB6 resolution database and tracker. It's not a particularly elaborate database on the face of it. Just like a database, you can see that it has a grid format, but like with a spreadsheet, it has a grid format, but with like a database, each of these entries opens up and you can put a lot of interesting information in there that will help with sorting and analyzing and organizing. I'm going to take you through these fields that we have so that you can better understand why we have these. And hopefully it can jog inspiration as to what fields you may want to have should your board decide to do one of these. Now, I know I was looking around at the board websites for Manhattan, and a lot of the boards don't have an Airtable database for their resolutions. I highly encourage every board to get one, to make one. A few boards do. I believe CB11 does. I think CB5 does. CB7, I believe, does. So those boards may already, if they're here, that may already have some familiarity with this. But and if I missed any boards, I'm sorry. I tried my best to get all of them. But um, the first field that we have is the resolution title. Um, we try to use distinctive words on this so that if we ever need to find that resolution again, we can do that just based on the keywords that are in the title of the resolution. One drawback to Airtable that it does not yet do, and we're hoping maybe this will come in future iterations of it, is that it will not seek the text from the resolution that we can input into the that would attach to the record and extract the text. It doesn't do that yet. There are workarounds for that, but we keep it simple. And we try to just put as many keywords in the title of the resolution as we can. And just more distinctive, the better. So the next field is the date passed. We put here in Airtable, you can indicate that a field is just for dates, and that's how I recommend that you build it. You can also do just plain old text, but I think it's easier and better to do it with dates. The date field would allow you to indicate a date for each record, and we always log the date of the full board where it was passed. It's not always the most obvious way to search for something, but sometimes we do want to know, okay, for this particular full board that we had, what were the resolutions that were passed? So that's why we do this. The attachment field is where we put resolutions. For example, you can attach a PDF, a Word file, an image file to a record. And this is what we do with our resolutions. Rather than just have a list of resolutions and then we have to go elsewhere to find them, we just go ahead and attach them directly into our resolution database so that if anybody ever wants to find them, they can find them here. It's a really great, useful feature of Airtable. So that's what makes it more than just a simple spreadsheet. The next field we have is the committee field. We log which committee generated each of these resolutions so that we can track how many resolutions are coming out of the committees. Not that that's necessarily the end goal, but we'll go into how to search and organize by these fields a little later. But the committee that resolutions originated out of, we have found is a useful piece of information to keep track of. So that's why we have it here in our database. The next field is the topic field. This isn't something that not every board has in their spreadsheet, in their Airtable, but we opted to do it because sometimes we found that there are certain kinds of resolutions that we do very frequently. And like maybe a resolution about a bus lane, maybe resolutions about cannabis dispensaries, maybe resolutions about certificates of appropriateness. Any kind of resolution that we see come up more and more, or more than once, we put a tag on that record, and that tag will help us search for that more efficiently. We'll get to that with my next set of remarks. But this is something you don't have to do it on your Airtable if you want to start small or simple. When we first started our Airtable 5.5 years ago, we debuted this thing literally a month into the pandemic. We'd been working on our new website, our new Airtable, and it didn't occur to us that a pandemic would come upon us. But 5.5 years ago, when we debuted this, we did not have this particular field. It's something that we added later when we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could search this way? The next field is a date sent field where we indicate when we sent the resolution, or if it's an internal resolution that only stays with the board when we posted it on the tracker. And then self-explanatory, the year that it was passed. There's a reason that we have this here, even in addition to this date passed field, and we'll get to that. Airtable also lets you add little info boxes to all of the fields so that you can explain what this is if it's not already obvious. All right. Now, one of the things I'd like to demonstrate for you is we're going to practice searching with Airtable. Now that the Airtable is populated and it's got all the bells and whistles it's going to have, I'd like to take you through some basic searches that you can use in our Airtable or in yours once you build it. The first basic search is using the search bar here up in the top right-hand corner. I'm moving the cursor around so you can see, and you find a keyword in a reso title or a reso file name. This field will search every piece of text that is in the Airtable plus the file name of the attachment that you have added in this field right here. So let's say there was a resolution that came out of our liquor license committee, and I want to see it again, and all I can remember is that it had the word pig in it. It was a restaurant that had the word pig. So I will type it in, and it will highlight the fields, the cells where that word comes up. It highlights this one, which is the actual PDF of the resolution, not because it sees it in the text of the PDF, but it highlights it because it sees it, if you can see up here, in the file name of the PDF. So that's also a good indication that it's good to put these distinctive words in the file names of the things that you upload to Airtable. But it has it here in the title, and so if this is what we were looking for, we found it in a split second. The next search that we're going to do is a date search. Let's say we know that we wanted to search for resolutions that we passed at the November 13th meeting of the November 13th, 2024 meeting of CB6's full board. So our full boards are always the second Wednesday of the month. So what we would do is we would use the filter box. Over here, you have a little thing that says filter. You click it, and it opens up a little box where you can start adding conditions to your search. So we're going to look for date passed. And these have various operators that you can use to get really specific about what you want, and they're tailored to the field. Like the date ones are going to be a little different from the committee ones, and they're going to be a little different from the full text ones and things like that. So, but typically, I think that generally you can stay with the defaults. And so I would go for date passed, and then enter a date, a calendar comes up, and go to November 2024, the 13th, and boom, in a second, all the resolutions that are tagged, that were passed and indicated as passed on November 13th, 2024, come up. And so if the resolution that you're looking for is there, rather than having to search through the almost 1,200 resolutions that we have in our database currently, you only have to look at the 11 that are here. And so this makes searching for resolutions a lot more efficient and a lot easier. I'm going to clear this out, and we're going to go to a committee search. We're going to also use filter. The condition we're going to use is the committee. And again, the operators are a little different than the ones for the date, but I think that the default works just fine. And let's say we're going to go for everything that the Parks Committee of CB6 has passed. By doing that, the 1,200 or so, almost 1,200 resolutions becomes 167. And now we can see, and this goes back, we started it 5.5 years ago, but we started putting in resolutions from even before that. So it goes back about 10 years. You can see the last 10 years or so of output of Parks Committee resolutions at CB6. And they're organized by the full board where they were passed. You have the text of the resolution here. You have topics that can alert you to what kinds of issues the committee was addressing. And even by looking at the grouping by full board, you can see the frequency of these resolutions and how they were passed. If you want to look for multiple committees, you can, with the operator, it says the committee has any of, and then any of parks. And let's say we want to do parks and land use. So it also adds land use to that. So it's very versatile. You can use it for very, very precise searches. So we'll go on then to the next, the topic. And this is why we added the topic tags to our records. If we go to topic, and we indicate we're going to stick with the default. Let's say I want to look for certificates of appropriateness. I click that, and of the 1,200 or so resolutions that are there, it goes down to, oops, there's some icon in the way that it goes down to much fewer. And it gives you all of the resolutions that we have that were tagged as being about certificates of appropriateness. And one of the cool things about this is that it can be a good tool for not just long-serving members to sort of refresh their memory about the work that the board has done, but also newer members can use this tool, this resolution, this work that you guys have already done to refresh their memory, to learn the history of this committee and the board in relation to a particular thing that the committee hears. At our board, landmarks preservation applications are heard in our Parks Committee because we have the Parks, Landmarks, and Cultural Affairs Committee. Some of your boards have Landmarks Committee that are completely standalone. We don't. So the Parks Committee hears landmarks issues. And they're not as frequent as the straight up parks issues. So if a new member is assigned to this committee and they realize that landmarks issues are going to be something that this committee will be dealing with, but they don't really know much about it or much of the history, they can easily come to our Airtable database and search for these particular kinds of resos so they could refresh themselves and learn what the history is as far as these types of applications before CB6. By being able to sort of manipulate the data in this way and work with the data, I'd much rather say, you get to also glean other insights that you maybe wouldn't be able to do if you just sort of stick a reso up on a link on your website as some boards do. You're able to see how many of them we have. You're able to see, for example, how frequently they come about. In 2019, you can see that we had 9 of them. And then after the pandemic, starting with 2022, we average about 1 a year. Perhaps that's relevant, perhaps it's not, but it's much easier to see when you're able to work with the data like this than just, okay, we've got this one reso, let's stick it up on our website as a simple PDF link, or let's stick it up in a big bunch with all the other resos that passed this month on our website. There it is. You're able to really work with the data more and see if there are connections that you can make that maybe seem irrelevant, but can lead to some greater understanding. And then the year filter is what we would use if we just want to see how many resolutions were passed in such and such a year. Okay, 2024, CB6 has 84. All right. And if we wanted to do this year so far, it's not over yet. There we go. Whoops. $216. Sorry about that. One of the cool things about these searches, now that you know how to do them, you can stack them with each other. For example, let's say you want to do, let's say it's the new year and your committee is about to have its January meeting, and you want to take a look at the resolutions that your committee has done in the last year. Well, let's go to our filter. We will do the committee. Let's say it's transportation. Okay, that filters out everything that's not a transportation committee resolution, but it has 10 plus years worth of resolutions. You don't want that. You only want from, say, 2024. You can go and you can add an additional condition for the year and make that year 2024. So boom, you've got every resolution that originated in the Transportation Committee from 2024. You see the frequency, you see which month, which full board, and you see tags for the topics, so you can get a quick sense of how concentrated a board or a committee was on a particular topic, or is it, are there certain things certain topics that the board was dealing with over that past year, or is it sort of all over the place? And you can also use this as a tool for helping you keep track of the resolutions that you have passed. One of the things that I see in boards sometimes is that, pass these resolutions as if almost that was the end goal, but then they don't go back to them. They don't speak of them again. So, if you do all this work to pass a resolution and you send it out and then you never go back to it, did it ever exist at all, essentially? So having the data at your fingertips like this is a way to keep track of, okay, whatever became of that resolution? Did we get what we asked for? Do we need to push a little harder? Do we need to do some additional follow-up? And if we didn't, we can then ask questions as to why and what lesson can we learn from that. Being able to work with the data so easily and so efficiently really can elevate the work and professionalize the work that community boards do. All right, now I want to see, I think I see some things in the Q&A. Let me try and get to them. Before we go further, there's a question here from Kevin Collins. If a CB does not currently use Airtable, some questions: how can we get this? What costs and what would be, and would you be willing to do a presentation for a particular CB? Yes, I could. Keep in mind, I, like other district managers, have a lot on my plate, so I don't know that I could do 12 of them, but I imagine the Borough President's Office will make this video available to all the boards, but I'm happy to help, especially your fellow district managers. We help each other all the time on all sorts of things. But as far as how you get it, you just go to airtable.com. Just, full disclosure, I'm not here as a Airtable salesman. I have no connection to Airtable at all. I'm not here to shill for them. It's just I'm just letting you know of a tool that we learned about and that we think is very useful. We pay for 4 licenses, one for each of our 3 members of staff, and then one for a consultant that oversees our website. We have a firm that helps with maintenance on our website, and they need one of these, so we pay for one of them for that too. So we have 4 licenses, and we pay $10 a month. So it's about $480 a year that we pay for this. There is a free version, but it will limit the number of records that you can have, and so to 1,000. So if you're just starting and you want to know whether you'll actually keep it up and like it, then I think the free version is certainly something that you can do. But as you start adding, if you want to have an account for all the staff, and if you want to start adding more things on it that push you above 1,000 records, then you're gonna have to go into the paid version. So yes, this is a cloud-based application, so there's no software to purchase. You just go to airtable.com and you can open up a free account, and then when you're ready, you can purchase whatever you want, any upgrades. All right. Okay, so I think we've gotten the questions so far. Let's continue with, we practice searching now.
Jesus, can I just interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Just to clear the questions that are there, that there's a nuance in one of them. You mentioned in your presentation that you started this project 5 years ago.
Yes.
Could you share how you managed the initial data entry and maintenance?
Yes. I'm trying to remember. 5 years ago sounds like 500 years ago now. One of the things that we did is we went back like a year or two. We had already started putting together a spreadsheet of, a list of the resolutions we had, when they were passed, things like that. And so we did that for about a year, a year's worth of resolutions, and we were able to upload that directly to Airtable, so that when we launched the Airtable, we weren't starting with just nothing. I think most boards keep track of resolutions in some way, so it probably is not that much extra work for most boards to come up with something like that. And then we started with that full board in April of 2020, and then we just put them up every single month after every single full board. And we went from there, and 5.5 years later, we're still updating it. We're adding to it. We're trying not to make this thing super complicated, so I don't know that how many more changes we'll make to it. Probably not many, but yeah, we just kept up with it. And as times get, whenever there's a slow period, those are fewer these days, but whenever there's a slow period, we'll see if we can go back. Okay, can we go back one more year, adding things like that. So I would say, start with 1 year's worth. That should be manageable for most boards, and then do it month by month by month by month.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you. All right. So let's go to, I'm going to switch. once you get comfortable with the basics of Airtable, you can really do many more things with it. For example, we don't only use our Airtable to track resolutions. We also use it to track our meeting minutes and agendas. For example, I'll take you back to our Airtable here. Sorry, I'm switching between two things here. Again, if you go to our website, which I really, really encourage you to visit, we're super proud of it. For those members who have been around a few years, several years ago, like 6 or 7 years ago, I believe, there was some allocations that came from City Council. Every board got like $45,000 or something like that. You may have heard that some boards were, throwing block parties or buying a car or something like that. But we decided to use our money to really do a complete and total redesign of our website. So we're really happy with the results. So we really encourage people to take a look at the CB6 website. But here you have some links to things that we think are useful resources for the public and for board members. The meeting minutes is one of them. I'm circling it here with the cursor. When you click it, it will open up a similar looking database to the minutes, to the resolution one. And here we have all of our minutes for all of our meetings, full board and committee. And we tag them so that people can search for them. Let's say you want to only search for land use committee minutes. Okay, you can do that. And then you can add a year or you can add a date, and you can, or we have started doing the tagging of the topic tagging, so that and say, I want all the meetings where this particular bus lane was discussed, or this particular homeless shelter. And so you can search that way. We also have the text of the minutes that we add on there, just like we would a resolution. And we have meeting agendas that we have on here. Our calendar is tied to our internal calendar through an API. So when the calendar on the website, when the date passes, the agenda goes away. And so this is a way for us to keep the agenda out there in case anybody wants to look back and say, oh, I wonder what this particular committee was talking about in May of 2023. And since our meetings are all hybrid, we put the YouTube video link there in case anybody ever wants to see it. So yeah, you've got a lot of information here that we can use to build a database for your minutes. And whenever there are presentations at a committee, we also add those in there, just preserve them for posterity's sake in case anybody needs them afterwards. But this was also not necessarily something that we started with. It's something that grew out of our increasing facility with Airtable through the resolution. We started with the resolutions, and then we used it to do all sorts of things. Budget requests. I'll show you our budget requests. We also, on our website, it goes right there. You can look at our budget requests. We track those on Airtable as well. Obviously, they look a little different, but we group them by capital, by expense, by continuing support. We group them by agency. We group them by committee. We put the little blurb that gets sent to the city. We keep track of the agency responses throughout the year so that we can sort of see how the agency responses evolve. So it's not like, okay, we forget what they were saying to us 3 years ago. And so hopefully we can use those to better craft our responses so that we're not asking for things that we're never going to get simply because we're not asking for them correctly or strategically. And we have dozens of other uses of Airtable in our internal on our internal side. For example, the resolution database that I've been walking you through, we have a backend where we have a view of this, and it shows us what resolutions still we need to send for the month. After full board, we have sometimes a dozen different resolutions that need to be sent out. In recent months, because of all the dining out applications, we've had dozens and dozens of them, and it can get a little bit hard to keep track. So what we did is we did a view where it would filter out any of the resolutions that have a date sent on it, because if the date sent is there, that indicates to us that we sent it. And so then we get to see a view of all the resolutions that have not been sent because they don't have a date sent yet. And as that list goes down and down and down, we know, okay, we're making progress toward our resolution. So it really helps to optimize our workflow. It seems like we have a question from Seema Reddy. Let me enable your mic. Seema?
Sorry, that was a total mistake. Apologize.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
There are a couple in the Q&A.
Okay, so let me look at that. Okay, can you please cover again how you track any follow-up on a particular letter or reso? For example, say a letter sent on February 2025, and if what was asked actually occurred, is that a work in progress? Okay, so that's a really good question. That is something that we're still working on. This is called a database, a CB6 resolution database and tracker. I'll be perfectly honest, we're still working on the tracker part. The office, your board offices are, have a lot on their plates, and especially our board tends to pass quite a few resolutions. We're at almost 1,200 just on this tracker, and there are many more that I don't have access to because they're decades and decades old. So that is something that is going to have to be a board-wide initiative. And I encourage you guys in your boards to have those sorts of conversations as to how are we going to do this. Personally, I've seen in my almost 10 years here as district manager, my advice to the boards would be less is more when it comes to resolutions. I think sometimes boards can fall into the trap of, okay, if we pass a resolution, we've done something. No, the resolution in many cases is when the work begins, not when it ends. If it's more than just a, hey, we need to tell this particular agency how we feel about such and such a thing, the resolution is when the work begins. So I would stress quality over quantity. But we're still working on that, is the answer to your question. And I think one of the ways we might do that is to really crystallize what the asks were, and then have them perhaps have their own field. And then we can more easily, there's a checkbox field that you can create, and we could perhaps add one of those and then put the checkbox when we feel that the asks have been fulfilled. And then once they have, boom, you check it, and then you can create a view that will just show the resolutions that have no check on it, for example, meaning these are the resolutions that have not been fulfilled. You still need to work on those. But yeah, any number of things can be done with this. Your imagination is the limit. There's another
on that vein. So there's a nuanced question, and I think I know what the answer is, but I'm going to let you answer it. Are there templates for the different? I don't know if they mean DBs or CBs, or is each DB responsible for creating the DB's tables on their own?
Airtable has some templates. It also allows you to, when we started, AI wasn't integrated into Airtable very much, or at all, really. Recently, there's a functionality within Airtable that's AI enhanced, that lets you say, hey, I want to create an Airtable that will do XYZ things. And it will create something for you. It's hit or miss sometimes the results, but as far as templates that are community board specific, it does not have those because we are very specific entities. But I'm happy to share a template for what we've got. If you've got a specific idea of things, maybe we've already done it. I'm happy to do that. There are other boards that do use Airtable too. Probably not to the extent that we do. We've gone all in with it. But yeah, they're not on Airtable, but oftentimes they can be found. And of course, so many of our Airtables are public. You guys can just easily, oftentimes you can just download a CSV and there you got your template right there. I'm running out of time, so we've got about 12 minutes left. So I wanted to get to a few other things. One bit of advice that I started to see, that we started to see in working with Airtable to archive and organize our resolutions in this way, is that this resolution database and tracker can really become a central focal point for the work of your board. And it can really become a good repository for the institutional knowledge that right now our members, our staff have. And the way to really amplify that is to make these resolutions count. Again, my personal advice is less is more when it comes to these resolutions, but make these resolutions the place where you put some of this knowledge that you don't want to be lost. City processes, for example, or board processes, or work that the board has been doing on a particular topic. This is the place, or the board's thinking on a particular topic. This is the place where you can do that. And especially like whenever we've had to, sometimes we'll get a request from an agency for a press quote. And so it's about a particular topic. I'll go to the tracker first and I'll look for whether we have a tag on that topic. And if we do, the resolutions come up and I can just review the resolutions and we can churn out a quote because we know what the board has said on XY thing. So, this organization, while it takes some time and some effort to set up, it can really pay dividends down the road with saved time and saved effort. For example, one of the resolutions I can show you, let me get back to our resolution tracker. I will clear everything we have here. Let's see. Let's look for a resolution. All right, this one right here. It's a land use resolution on regarding a POPs and an open air cafe. And we look at the text. Enlarge it a little bit here.
Okay, we can't see it, so.
Okay, it's not sharing. Now, can you see it?
There we go.
All right. Okay, so for example, this resolution is about an applicant that has a POPs in our district, and they wanted to put what's called an open air cafe within the POPs, essentially taking about 20% of the POP space for an adjoining restaurant that, they'll have tables and chairs and stuff like that so people can eat out on it. That's a very particular process within the Department of City Planning and the Department of Buildings. And so what we did is we wrote a resolution on it. This particular POPs had been problematic for some time, and the board has had a lot of activity with it. And so we decided to put a lot of that into this reso. For example, we add a little bit about the process, indicating what this thing is called. It's called a certification, and it's, you make it to the chairperson of the City Planning Commission, and the Department of Buildings is involved. We indicate here a little detail as to how, it's not a ULURP process, but community boards are still allowed 45 days to comment. If someone would read this resolution, maybe because they get an open air cafe application in the future, they're like, oh, okay, this is how it works. This is how much time we have. So it adds a little bit about these city processes. We make references to the specific sections of the zoning resolution, the zoning code. And then we spent a good page really going through what the work the board has done in trying to make this applicant, or this building rather, comply with the law. And we offer a little bit of our rationale for why we do it, why we were so insistent on this, that it was we have little public space and we want to protect it. And we had agencies issue these violations. We link to the violations in case those links go dead. And people want to look at them in the future. We attach them as PDFs. But we really did go through everything that we've had, all the history that we've had with this board, with this particular applicant. In the end, we didn't oppose the application because, as we indicate here, the committee thought that the benefits of a redesigned POPs, because if they want the privilege of doing this, they have to redesign the POPs and make it modern, outweighed perhaps the infractions from the past. But taking your resolutions and asking, okay, how can we make this resolution something that's useful beyond just telling city planning yay or nay on something? How can we make this resolution something that is that will live on and be useful to people in the future, or to people now who just maybe aren't involved with the board? It's that sort of thinking that is going to help us make our resolutions count more. Because there's no sense in going through all the work of setting up something like this if ultimately what we're going to put in is stuff that has no value to people. So, I always stress to my board, look, you're going through the effort of passing these resolutions. Let's really think about why we're doing it and the quality of the resolutions. And I would advise that those things really need to come from the board. I mean, all the boards have talented district managers who have a lot on their plate and lots of, competing responsibilities, but that we can advise as district managers, we can't dictate. So this stuff, this need for quality control and for passing on institutional knowledge has to come from the members. It has to come from the members because it can't just come from the district manager. Another question. Since this is a cloud-based, is there a way to save all of the content locally if the remote server crashes? You can download CSVs of it. That's a very good question. I've actually never tried to just sort of download everything in one go. I'd have to look into that. Airtable has a lot of tutorials on their website, so I'm sure there's some sort of answer there. But at least at the individual base level, you can easily make a CSV of all of your work in case something should happen. One thing it will, however, is that like the attachments, obviously they will not come down. There will be some sort of metadata about it, but those, unfortunately, they're lost, which Airtable is big enough that hopefully that shouldn't happen. But then they'd have to be re-uploaded. But okay, I will stop there. Are there any other questions?
Well, Michael, I think there was one from Michael Cohen, but you just answered that. So,
Okay.
I first of all, we just want to thank you, and I want to remind everyone this is an example of one of the tools that you could use, and that your board can use. I also want to. I think what one of the points that Jesus has brought out is that the work that district managers, what they do, is involved and it's continuous. It's important. Institutional knowledge and actually thinking about that is very, very important. How do you pass on that knowledge, especially in a time when we are in term limits? And so this is just clearly one example of a way to do it, so that it's all in one place. The other thing about Airtable is it's the pliability and the ability to use it just not only for resolutions, but district needs, budget statements, notes, former presentations, And having it all in one place is a great thing. You know, Jesus, we thank you profusely for taking the time out of your very busy day to share this knowledge with our other community board members and anyone who's here. I want to remind everyone that this particular YouTube session will live on our YouTube channel. So if you want to access or see it again, you are able to, and it will live on our channel at least and through December 31st. Um, Let me let you know about a few others that we have this week. This evening, we have a very special presentation by Afua Adu, Combating Implicit Bias. It's one of our most well attended sessions. It starts at 5 p.m. I urge you all, if you are able, to join us. Tomorrow, we have one at noon. It will be in person here. It's with Homeland Security. However, there you must register in advance because seating is limited. Tomorrow evening at 5, we have Equal Employment Opportunity. That's EEO. And then Thursday, very interesting topics, using topography as a tool again and navigating the HPD and DOB portals as tools. All of those you can find on our website again, www.manhattanbp.nyc.gov. Jesus, I cannot thank you enough. Dawn, thank you as always. Um, I I learned a lot, and I do this every day. We cannot be more grateful and appreciate your time and effort. For all of you who are here today, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.